What's going on, everybody? Excited for this product review because this is something you guys had asked me about for a long time to review, and that is this new Total Gym Incline Row. Now that I got a hold of it and got a chance to play around with it in this video, I'm going to go over the overall pros and cons on the machine, how I kind of see myself personally using this machine, and also when I recommend this to you guys, and or who do I kind of see this machine most kind of suited for. And as with all my reviews, I'm going to try and make this review as honest as possible. If you guys are considering this and just want to check it out, I will put a link in the description box for this product if you guys are curious about picking one up for yourselves. If you guys do choose to go ahead and do so at some point in time, it definitely helps me out if you guys do click on those links and help support the channel. Now, really quick, because this might be a little confusing, if you jump on the website, I'm reviewing, it says in quotes, the new Total Gym Incline Row and not the Total Gym Row Trainer. They look very similar. The Incline Row that I'm reviewing is cheaper by $600. The other one's a little more expensive, over $1,000. The one I'm reviewing, the Incline Row, has an adjustable setting. The other machine does not. I just assume the other more expensive row trainer is just a little more heavier, sturdier build, maybe slightly more commercial use. That row trainer can hold up to like 400 pounds versus this incline rower, or the Incline Row, can hold up to 300 pounds. Now you guys are gonna be seeing the unboxing here and the setup. It really wasn't too bad. Everything came nicely packaged, as it usually always does with stuff from Total Gym. I'm not gonna lie, it was a little awkward just to kind of see where stuff was. When you first see this machine, I've never seen anything kind of like it, so I was kind of unfamiliar where things kind of go, but pretty minimalistic as far as screws to kind of put together. There was one little snafu that kind of happened that I'll show you guys right here that I correct later on, but initially I didn't notice. I maybe could have fixed this, and might have been my error on the initial setup, but when I was going ahead doing some rowing on it, even though it was smooth, I was hearing this weird little noise, kind of like a slight scraping noise, and I realized like the cable wasn't fully on the wheel, so it was kind of annoying to get that thing back on there, but it wasn't a big deal, so just kind of keep that in mind. Now, getting into first impressions, now I did and will be bringing this thing outside. I had to kind of hop on this thing initially once I set it up in my basement, and once I did so, you guys know if you watch my other reviews, I'm pretty big on first impressions, and my first impressions jumping on this thing was it felt smooth, it felt comfortable, and I liked it kind of right out of the box. And then my wife was downstairs with me when I was setting it up, and she jumped on the machine, and literally her first words were something to the effect of, like, she said, like, quote, "This is better than a Total Gym." To which I was saying, okay, let's not get crazy here, because the Total Gym does a lot of cool things and it's a great machine. Granted, she was only on it for 15 seconds, but she thought it was pretty cool. I'll also add this thing past the kid test, where my 5-year-old with zero instruction was able to jump on this machine and had a good time with it. The overall design of the machine, I'd say, is fairly solid. I wouldn't say it's like light, but I also wouldn't say it's like super heavy. I'd say it's definitely bulkier and more cumbersome to kind of manhandle and move around than pretty much all my sliding bench trainers. So while I could bring it from downstairs in my basement outside, it's not something I'm gonna want to transport in and out. So I'll most likely just be leaving it in my garage. But the overall comfort of the machine, like the seat to like the actual handlebar that you're holding onto, felt really good, felt really comfortable. I like the feel of that bar. You can actually upgrade the bar to a multi-grip handle, which seems pretty cool. It's a little more pricier, so I don't know if it's really worth it, but that seems also like a nice added addition. And before I get into the overall feel and use of the Total Gym Incline Row, just want to show you guys that you can collapse this thing and stow it upright as well, which is definitely nice. All right, so getting into the overall feel and practical use of the machine, I have to say it's definitely unique. So yes, you're on this incline and it's somewhat very similar to a Total Gym in design, but it's a different experience pulling, I should say kind of pushing from like the lower body and the feet, instead of working against a pulley behind you like on a normal Total Gym. Now, what's really cool about this machine, that while yes, it's a dominant kind of pulling based machine, hence it's called a row machine, you really can isolate and really work your legs pretty effectively and efficiently on this machine. I also should say with very low, minimal impact like knees and joints, and just feels really comfortable to kind of do those things. Some of you guys might be wondering in the comparison, this thing is very different overall in the overall design and mechanics of like a traditional indoor rower, so I wouldn't confuse the two or mix up the two. I love my Concept 2 rower, but they are unique in the sense of the mechanics of how you kind of do things. But with that being said, just like a traditional indoor rower, most people don't realize this, most of that action is really coming from the leg drive. So on here, you actually can do a little bit of both. That's kind of the cool thing about this machine. You can do definitely some total body exercises and drive and mechanics, but you can isolate the legs and also do some great upper body exercises as well. Another great point that's worth noting on this that I kind of thought of almost immediately when I was on this machine is that where a traditional Total Gym kind of lacks is in that back extension type exercises, and there's been some unique things I've talked about in past videos with that. With this machine, if you're looking for something that can actually help strengthen the lower back, not to an extreme degree, and I'll get into maybe later on how you can possibly kind of load this thing up, but just doing the basic row, or even kind of holding the bar and just kind of doing some back extensions, like kind of with the little leg press also in there, works out really good. So I think a lot of people want some like exercise to incorporate or go in conjunction with a traditional total gym. This is a great addition because of the mechanics, because of the way you're pulling. This also is going to help work and strengthen your lower back as well, which I know for a lot of people is a weak point. A point I want to kind of highlight based on what I've said so far that I think is worth noting, because it looks like an awkward machine. You're kind of wondering how this thing feels. At least to me, out of the box, this thing feels really comfortable. It's also, I'd say, fairly versatile depending how you want to look at it and the different exercises and things you can kind of incorporate with this machine. Now, as you guys have been kind of seeing here, I brought it outside. I'm using it alongside my Total Gym Fit, which is where I feel it kind of personally shines, honestly. I had a great workout, just kind of supersetting with these two machines back to back, from doing more push-related exercises on my Total Gym Fit, and then jumping onto the high repetition kind of pulling exercises or total body movements, even some lower body isolation movements as well. I found myself gravitating more towards like the traditional row exercise that you guys see this machine's kind of designed for. I did some isolated back exercises, did a lot of bicep curls, did some random stuff with other body movements like twisting, rotational stuff, did some frontal raises for shoulders as well. I even tried actually spinning around the machine, didn't get too creative, and there's probably some other creative things you could do, but you can do some like overhead stuff with triceps, even some presses if you really wanted to. One potential con for some people that this immediately might steer people away from the machine, and this might not be totally accurate just given on my experience how I've been kind of using this so far. But what I found is that it's kind of hard to do the basic row movement that you kind of see like in the video for a long period of time, even on the lowest settings. So you can see here it comes with like a device holder that you could set up like a tablet and kind of distract yourself for a longer duration if you guys wanted to. Maybe that might work, actually staying on the machine longer, but I personally wouldn't see myself doing a consistent kind of, at least the rowing motion on here, for more than 5 minutes. I honestly was just kind of a bit challenging to kind of keep that up. Now, you certainly could mix it up for a period of time, doing some like rowing, bicep curls, even like high rows. I thought the high rows actually, you'll see in this video, feel really good. But the point was doing a lot of multi-joint stuff in there, even with single joint stuff. To me, you kind of feel like you want to get off it. The pro is like, it's a great interval tool, definitely gets your heart rate up. But like I was saying earlier, I really see myself, again, me personally, and I think this machine really shines as a complementary device to a Total Gym or some other piece of gym equipment that you have out there, either for intervals or jumping onto some other complementary or different exercises on this equipment. Which, another great attribute with this machine that I really liked is the fact that it's very minimal setup. So I found it really easy to kind of superset back and forth, especially with a Total Gym. And like I said, they totally have complementary natures between each other, but the idea of kind of doing a lot of pushing exercise with the cable behind me, then jumping on this machine, then doing the converse kind of pulling from the bottom type exercises. There's no like straps or anything else. The machine's kind of basically set up for some one-dimensional use, and while that can be kind of a limiting factor in what you can kind of do with it, I found it to be kind of fun to kind of jump from like machine to machine. So while I definitely think there's a lot of room here to be versatile and mix things up, and there's some variety in what you can do with the machine, even though I think it feels good, some people might argue that it's not the most versatile machine as far as compared to a Total Gym, and I think that's kind of a hard thing to kind of really compare it to, because the Total Gym is like the king of versatile exercises in my opinion. But there are certainly some things I'm sure in the future I'll discover and do more of. I didn't really load it up too much. As any kind of resistance band stuff, even on the Total Gym, I always say, do that at your own risk. I didn't mess with it too much. I tried it a little bit. I'm sure there's some other ways I actually could load this on to make things a little bit harder if I wanted to with band tension. I didn't get too creative with it, but even those little like pull-up bar attachments, and I'll link that down below, those little pull-up attachment things, handles I use in my Total Gym. That felt really good too, doing things like high rows. And I'm not really someone who does like upright rows. I never think those feel comfortable, but this one in particular, especially this machine, feels really good doing high rows. So if you're looking at things for like posterior shoulders, but definitely upper traps, this machine also is going to shine in that department as well. But with that being said, you can really do some great things like leg isolation exercises, back extensions, and it certainly can act as a single joint exercise for arms, shoulders, obviously back. You're seeing a lot of single arm rowing here. Probably the obvious thing is that you can't do a whole lot of like chest and like, straight shoulder type things on this machine. But again, it's not really meant for that. So overall, my concluding thoughts on this, I have to say, honestly, up front, I was never really jumping to want to review this thing because it honestly didn't really interest me too much. I already had an indoor rower, and not that I'm going to compare those two things together. I was looking at it more as like a cardio-based kind of machine. Even though I knew it had some potential for like resistance training, I had kind of low expectations for it, but I really like the way it feels. I'm very happy I have it. It is very cool. I think it's something that if you can afford the extra $600 that it costs and you're looking to kind of mix things up a bit, you have the extra space, then I would say consider it. I mean, it is very cool that you can kind of collapse it and, you know, I'll put it up against the wall, which is what I'm going to be doing here. It has a little roller, so I'm going to store it in my garage. So that's another huge added benefit for me with someone who's like used a lot of like small spaces. Overall, I'd say it's a cool device. I think it's worth it for the money. That is, if you're going to use it. So that's the old question here. If you guys like what you guys are seeing, you have the budget to afford it, and you aren't looking at it as a pure form of like a cardio-based piece of equipment, then I would say definitely pick it up. So if you guys have any specific questions, comments, feedback, let me know. I'll be happy to address it. Otherwise, I'll see you guys in the next video, and thank you guys for watching.